exactly know what everybody knows about the Olympics and what referees go through. So basically, how I like to run things is if you've got something to ask as I go through, just pop your hand up, and nothing question's silly because you might want to know something that other people might not want to know. I just want to show you through run through a few photos. I don't actually have many photos of myself, so I had to really dig hard to find these. That's the only one I could find of me actually refereeing. That is the US versus Tunisia, which I did on day 4. There's Tyson Chandler just doing a bit of a volleyball shot down to LeBron there. Good action shot there. There's a funny story behind that actually, and I only got told about this when I got home. Was when I was about to toss the ball, I didn't realise that the crowd doing the countdown. And this is not you don't really hear this at international sport or international basketball tournaments, but at the Olympic Games, it was in Britain, not really a basketball nation. The crowd was doing the countdown. I didn't even hear it, didn't know about it. I was that sort of focused on the game. And I've actually tossed the ball up and they're at 2. They've gone 10, 9, 8, and the commentator made a comment, the referee doesn't know what a countdown is, so he's giving me a bit of stick at the start. But you're that sort of worked up and focused on the game, you just don't even sort of worry about that kind of thing. That is the stadium. It was near the athletics track. It was in a sort of box-shaped sort of stadium that they could pull down later. So once it was done, it all came down. They played all the preliminary rounds there, and then the finals went over to where the gymnastics were over at O2 Arena. I don't know whether anyone knows London, but it holds about 15,000. It was pretty good court. That's the group of referees at the Olympics. There was 30. I think there was about maybe half a dozen nations that had 2 referees. Australia's one of them, obviously. USA, Argentina, Brazil, Italy, and then there's like a mixture of sort of referees from around the world. I think the ratio men to women was 24 men, 6 women, which FIBA want to change down the track at some point. They want to encourage more women to get to tournaments like this, and the quality of the 6 female officials they had there were really good, to the point where they all saw finals action. Even the Indian referee, like you never think India would be a great basketball nation, but there's a referee from India got appointed to the semi-final of the women, Australia versus US, and that was a really big deal, not only within the FIBA family, but for Indian sport, that was a really, really huge deal. And there was a referee from Morocco there, a referee from Lebanon. They're really big on promoting the sport to some of the nations that sort of aren't really known for basketball, like Indians. There's 1.4 billion Indians. They want basketball to grow in that country. So having a referee the semi-final of the Olympics, it's a pretty good thing. The left one's just, we had a sort of a photo day around the stadium where you could just do random photos with your mates, and I was just grabbed the game ball and just took a photo in there. That's the stadium, the middle one, maybe on day 2. That sort of get up, we had to wear the sort of casual gear and gear you had to wear to the game. So the far left with the tie and the jacket, that's what you have to wear to each. And if you're refereeing that day, you have to wear that to the game. So the 3 referees, the 2 commissioners, have to wear that uniform. The casual gear in the middle is what you wear sort of around to, if you just don't have a game on the day or you finish a game, that's what you wear around the village. And that's me and Mick at the opening ceremony. Obviously Michael was the other referee from Melbourne. I think everyone knows who Michael is, I'm pretty sure. That was his 3rd Olympics, so he was pretty experienced the whole thing. So I was also on his coattails, learning from him pretty much. All right, any questions so far? Nothing at all. There was 6 games a day. What they did, they alternated men and women. So they went women, men for the first 10 days in the finals. So a group of 30 referees, they get a point or 6.3, 18 each day, and there's always a standby in each game. So 24 officials were used, 6 weren't. So, but it really depended on what pools were playing, and there's a lot of different factors, which I'll go through on the next slide on how the appointments work. But usually you might get a day where you referee, a day off, a day on standby. It's pretty random actually. Some days you might do 2 in a row or 3 in a row. I think I did maybe the first 3 days and I had a break. So it all depends. Yeah, I did 7 games all up. The average usually is between maybe 6 and 8 games, depending on if you've seen the action in the finals. Most of the guys that did the medal games would have done about 8. That'd be about right. What it's got about 8 maximum. Yeah. I don't think anyone would do more than that, would they? Yeah. I think if you did more than 7 or 8, you'd mentally you'd be really gone, because that really takes a lot out of you. Just that those 7 games alone. Just to give you a bit of an idea how it works. When you first arrive, the very first thing you do is you go get decked out in your uniforms and all that sort of thing. So that probably takes up the first part, first day that you're there. And then from there on, it's like an action day like this, pretty much. With 30 officials, I think there was something like 12 technical officials, something like that. No? Yeah, there's a lot of technical officials that have certain roles. Like one will be the head member of the jury. There'll be some evaluators. There's a whole heap of technical commissioners from all around the world. So you get together like this, and Lubo, who's the sports director at FIBA, is also looks after the referees. Does a bit of an introduction, talks about what he expects of the referees, and just talks general stuff. It's more of a get together, sort of get to know each other pretty much, really. And then from sort of there, you run through some points of emphasis. And it varies from tournament to tournament, but that's pretty much the first day. It probably goes for maybe 4 or 5 hours. It's not too much, you're not too tired at the end. And then the second day in the morning, it's funny, you wouldn't think you'd have to show people mechanics, would you? But when you go to an international tournament where you don't know the knowledge of mechanics between each country, you just want to run through a few things so everyone's on the same page. So you do that briefly on court. You normally do the fitness test, but Lubo played a fast one on us and pretty much kept us in the dark all the way up to the day off the fitness test. So we all rocked up with our gear. He goes, "Oh, by the way, you're not doing the fitness test." So that was, everyone's going, "Oh, jeez." Bit of a letdown. I think we'd all rather have done it at the end, but we didn't. Then a bit of fun, bit of mucking around, and then you get your appointments at the end. That was pretty much the afternoon before the first day. And basically how it worked is that the very first game was 9 AM the next day, after the opening ceremony. And I had that inkling that I was one of the rookies. I was definitely going to get the first game, and that sort of came to fruition. I did get the first game at 9 AM in the morning, and that was China versus Czech women. So obviously, you don't want to give up going to the opening ceremony, so I was definitely doing that. But I had to be at the stadium at 7 o'clock in the morning, so there wasn't much sleep I had that first night. Just with the someone's phone, Betty. Just with appointments, how they work, it's not like national championships where you can it's a little bit more liberal. There's so many things to take into consideration with not only FIBA tournaments, with Olympics. With the pools, like there's 12 teams in men and women, so they're split into 6. So just for me, for example, or me and Michael, we can't referee the pool that Australia is in the men or the women. And that goes for all the countries, but you've also got pools of neutral referees that are there with no nation, so they can referee across and there's no problems. But when you're an accompanying referee with a country, it's a bit harder to sort of slot you on a game. Yeah, neutrality, like FIBA always invite about maybe maybe 10, a dozen neutral referees, so they don't have any problems with a point. They can just slot people in anywhere they can, so that's always a consideration. Language barriers, you know, just for an example, if a Spain or an Argentina is playing, or Brazil, they always have a Spanish-speaking referee on that game, even two maybe. It's just usually how it works. Just so they can, the language, there's no language barrier, even though everyone speaks English and is supposed to speak English. You know, they try and sort of work around those things that way. Obviously, cultural barriers, you know, and then there's an element of trust too. I mean, you know, FIBA have to trust you on certain games with certain teams. So, you know, you only gain certain trust as you sort of move along and they get to know you. So, and you know, there's one guy that does all those appointments, so he takes all that into consideration. And he's got, you know, Lubo's got his own calculations that he does that no one even knows about. So, I mean, I think is you get your appointments, you don't sit there and try and evaluate them too much. You just go, yep, that's my game, and just go do it. As you learn, the more international tournaments you go to, you just sit there and look at it and try and work out why you're doing this game. You'll implode. It's pointless. It really is. There is evaluations, obviously, and FIBA's got better at this process over the years. I think, you know, from an Australian point of view, we've always been fairly good at the evaluation process and analysing our games, and you know, we tend to be, you know, at the forefront of that around the world. You know, with the US and the bigger competitions. But basically, there was one guy responsible for sitting there and just cutting up every clip. So every single situation that happened in every single game was cut. And if they think something might need to be looked at, they sort of put it into a separate sort of area. I'm not technology savvy, so I can't really tell you what their program is, but everything was put aside, and you think you need to look at something, they brought that in after the game, and you pretty much 15 minutes after you had this, every single clip cut down, and you could, you know, pretty much say, you know where it was, and they can go straight to it. You can look at it, so you got an idea of sort of what's happened.
Did you have copies of that for yourself? Like, could you take copies of that yourself?
There was an ability to get copies.
Yeah.
It's very difficult in Olympics with the licensing agreements, and getting stuff through the television is impossible. So you can get stuff that's cut up, but actual whole games themselves, no. That was a bit of an issue because FIBA don't own the rights to the TV rights. It's the Olympic Committee that do, and it's virtually impossible. So basically, if you really want to watch what you've got to do it there and then. Yeah. And you can get those clips sent there if need be. The other things I'm saying there, honesty by all. I think you have to go in there and really and just be honest about things. Like if you've stuffed up something, you just say, "Yep, made a mistake there." At that level, you can't just be going in there and it's on the TV. You can. If you say I was right and you were wrong, well, here's the video. Let's have a look at it. I think you're just better off being honest about it, and at the Olympic level, that's what you got to do. Come in and be prepared to be wrong and right or whatever, and just have an open conversation about the actual game itself. And you just have to adjust quickly to the actual the tempo of the game and your mechanics and the way you referee international basketball. You have to cut down on your sort of. On things that you sort of, the little idiosyncrasies that you have. I mean, there's one thing that I usually run to the bench and signal, and I was pretty much told after the first game, don't run to the bench, just walk. Just something as small as that. But they sort of want everyone to be sort of fairly similar in a way. So you just got to be able to come out the next game. And it's something so minor, but that's what they say. Don't run to the bench. Just take your time. Then there's the element of professionalism. Obviously, you'd expect at that level. The way the dress is, you have to hang around in a suit like you do at sort of a world championship. You've got the uniform that I've showed you before, and just attitude. It's more like turning up to games. Even games you're not involved with, and just watching basketball and being around the group. Just general attitude towards other members, other referees, other technical commissioners, whatever. Teamwork's a big thing. FIBA are big on that. At that level, they want three referees on the game to get along somehow and try and break those barriers and be able to referee. I mean, it is the biggest stage of sport, so they really encourage that. They also encourage you to stay, or not encourage you, they instruct you to stay away from the teams. And that's not just players, coaches, that is, team managers, supporters, the whole lot. Anyone dressed in an Aussie green shirt. And they're really strict on that. I think after day 2, there's a few of the referees took photos of LeBron, Kobe, these guys. From afar, a long way away, they'll probably sit in another section, just a couple of photos. Meeting next day. If anyone's caught taking photos of the players, no more games for you. And they're very strict about that. Look, they won't tell you this, you won't get a game. That's how they tell you, no more games. They've got a very sort of crude way of letting you know without sort of saying anything to your face, basically. And I think that the last thing's something we can all take, acceptance of appointments. You get a game, you don't get a game, don't cry on your page and sulk about it. Or if it's not the game you want, you just got to say, well, and this is my attitude generally with these tournaments anyway, just whatever you get, you get. You just go do it. If you don't get a game, you don't get a game. I didn't go past the semi-final stage, and Lubo pulled me aside and said, look, I can't give you any more games. I said, okay, thanks for telling me, I appreciate that. And I wasn't really expecting to go any further anyway, but I think that sort of, not sort of helped me, but he was sort of surprised how I reacted to that. And I think, some people say, brush them off and walk away. And there are some countries that would do that. We're not as volatile. The Australian attitude is, yeah, you should be right, but some of the sort of more volatile natures would say, it's more But that isn't important. I mean, when you go to sort of tournaments around Australia, you know what it's like with the points. And just with Aussie referees, I think, we're starting to get trusted and accepted now, and I think that's been a product of a number of years, sort of stemming back even to the 70s when John Holden went to numerous Olympics, and then you've over the time you've had Billy, you've had Scott and Michael, really cement our spots on the international stage. So it's not sort of only help me, it'll help the future referees down the track when you go to FIBA tournaments. It's taken a long time to get that acceptance, because we're, that little country over there, they can sort of play and referee or whatever. But now, and that was highlighted by Michael's appointment to the gold medal game, which I'm not sure whether you know that. The US and Spain, we're at that point now where they do trust us, to get an appointment like that. It's not really more of an individual sort of pat on the back. It's more of a pat on the back for the federation and us as a group of referees and the referee coaches and how we do things in Australia. So I think it's a pat on the back for everybody in this, in the basketball family, the referee family anyway, and how we do things here in Australia. And I do honestly mean that. Just that was the last point here, but they still think we're black and white about everything. Like, it's either right or wrong. A call's either right or wrong, or the mechanic's either right or wrong. It's not that, was that call good for the game, or, do you have a good feel for the game? They still think that we're still a bit black and white, but that's our culture, isn't it? We evaluate games, we look at a clip in isolation and we go, is that right or is that wrong? Whereas in Europe, they look at something that might happen and they say, was that a good call for the game? Did it sort of really need to happen? Yeah, it probably wasn't right, but yeah, we can accept that as a call because it was good for the game, the whole package. And that's just a general comment though. Calling of games. When I mentioned the action day before, at the very end, went through some video clips like Scott will do later. And they were the top sort of 5 things there were what we concentrated on: charge, block, unsportsmanlike fouls, which has been a big topic, not only here but overseas for quite a while. Flopping, FIBA really have major concerns about that, and probably have tackled it a lot better than we have here in Australia. But we're starting to tackle that situation a lot better now. I'm not sure if you watch NBL games, but we're starting to pull the players up a little bit more because the NBL have instructed us to, because it sort of takes away from the game. They absolutely hate that over there. You get a warning and they don't care about teeing you up. I think actually a guy in the semi-final of the men, I think it was Argentina-US, Machioni got a tech from the German referee for something fairly innocuous, I thought, but no one even flinched about it. Bang, tech, done. In the semi-final of the Olympics. So that's what they do. And we have to sort of take on that sort of attitude as well. And sort of game management, I mean, you hear us talk about this all the time in pre-games, game management, how the game gets to conclusion where everybody's sort of happy, and it's very important, the game management side of things, that you can get on the game and make sure that you control it and make enough calls to make sure that it doesn't end up in a fight. But they were the main things that they spoke about. Not a lot of mechanics, but basically they're very big on area responsibility. And I just sort of slash out with ball watching because it's very important at FIBA level that you just call what's in front of you. You never go and call. You just don't do it. If you ever want a game ever again, don't do it. You just call what's in front of you. You've got 30 great officials there that all know what they're doing, so you just got to have that trust in the other guys, and they really sort of hammer that into you, really hard. And I know we try and do that here. Centre involvement, just and I still make this comment at the NBL level. I just don't think we make enough calls from centre, and they're just things up high. I mean, we're still guessing a lot from lead, and over there's at that level, or in Europe as well, there's just more stuff coming from the centre, and they just reiterate that. And moving too much is another one. And there's another thing I can pull up on early is about just not just running to my spot, running from trail to centre. No need to do that. Just move slowly. Walk. They're not into this. I know Australians do it. We're 100 miles an hour. Everything we do, the mechanics, running to lead and centre for trail. They're not like that over there, and they just want you to slow down and just move. Just walk. That was one thing. That was another thing that was said to me earlier as well. Just managing the games, like make sure that you're on top of all the dead ball stuff. Fouls called and someone might go over and push someone over. You just got to be on top of that kind of thing. Just knowing the players, like knowing the countries. Like I think the second game I did was Lithuania and Argentina, man. That's like a baptism of fire, especially at Olympic level. The first men's game, and it ended up being probably the toughest game of the tournament. But I got put on with 2 pretty experienced referees. And the very first thing, Carl Jungerbrand, who was at his 6th Olympics, said to me, he goes, "Do you know these players?" I said, "Yeah, I do know them." But he goes, "Do you know these players? They're all bastards." These guys are all bastards. Yeah, whatever. And he sort of goes, "Yeah, okay." And just the way he spoke about all the players and what they do. And I've scouted the teams. I knew what the deal was, but you don't really know until you go into the game. But they attack you every call, both teams, coaches, everyone attacks you. And you just got to know when you referee those 2 countries, that's what you're going to get. They're emotional. Every call's wrong. The crowds, everyone's in your face. Like the Argentina coach was, that's the sideline. He's about here coaching the whole time. So it's not the right thing, but you can't just like go bang. Sorry, there's a tech for walking on the court. You just got to sort of work around it. Say, that's it. They're the sorts of things you got to deal with each game. You just got to know what every game's different and every culture's different. What you're going to get in that game.
What are some of the things or strategies that you used in that situation to manage that sort of thing? Like you know,
just with the coach, you mean?
Yeah, well, the players as well. Like if they're constantly at you every call, what are some of the things that you use?
You know, they're really onto this. You know, the old sort of blank face and you know, just sort of standing there. And I'm always sort of like this. You know, and I do this at NBL level. Just sort of stand there and just sit and yeah, okay. You never sort of fight back, or you just sort of absorb it. You absorb what they're going to say to you. They're going to tell you everything about your mother and a whole lot. You just there's some words you don't even know existed, right? But they'll say it to you, and you just got to sit there and cop them a chin. You really do. That's the strategy. And with the coach on the floor, like you just, you know, sort of like, you make it a bit. You sort of tone it down a bit. So, you know, just things like that. You know, and you let them be emotional. You can't be as a referee, and you know. It tests you out at that level even more so than back here. You just can't. You can't look like you're fazed by anything. You just gotta, yep. And obviously, but there's a limit. Like you know, there's also a line that they can't cross as well. And you know, every referee's different with their tolerance. But you know, certainly, if they come and grab you by the throat, that's a different story. But you know, and there are technicals given, but you know, it has to be something really bad. You know, really, really bad. Like, I don't think I've given one out at not Olympics or World Championships. You've got it? Yeah. Maybe one or two, but not many. Not many. Happy ending. It's not a Chinese brothel. It's it's a term that Lubo uses all the time. The game has come to an happy ending, and that means that. Basically, if there was a war on for 40 minutes and everyone's bashed each other to death but they all sort of walk off and go, good game, thank you, and then they walk away, that's a happy ending. And you know, they're really onto that. But that's their main mantra, really. It must be a happy ending. You know, any controversies, anything that like Lumo or something, what, you know, you might not be refereeing for a few days. So and you know, you might not think that some games do come to a happy ending, but sometimes, most of the time they do. Like I'd say 90–95%. Like you get, look, the bronze medal game, I was a standby in the bronze men's game, and that was Russia versus Argentina men. And that ended in a debauchery. Russia stole the ball off the Argentinian guy at the end. On a play on the ground, like they were sort of going for the ball, Argentina guys fall over. Says he got tripped, but didn't really. Russia lay it up, game finished. Argentina blew up, as they always do. They come over and they attacked everybody, and they kicked over the signs on the bench, and it was just like erupted into over just one little thing that happened at the end. But even after 10 minutes, they still went over. That's what they do. They just just get crazy for a few minutes. That's their mantra. That's FIBA's mantra. Teamwork, as I said before, positive pre and post game. As I said, you can't have the detailed pre-games you do at our level because of the language differences. You just can't go into that much detail, and there's no real point really saying, oh, you should stand there and do this. Like you've got guys that have been around a while. I don't think you really need to tell them how to referee, but it's just got to be a positive pre and post game. No competing, but I put that in there because on the surface there's no competing, but behind the scenes there is. Like it's a massive competition, and some of the egos you're dealing with are huge. As big as the players are, even bigger. This is just the referee corps. Everything's got to be nice and fluffy on the surface, but behind the scenes, everyone's sort of, rooting to get that, the gold medal game, the semis or whatever. That's their goal, or most anyway. And it comes, you can sort of, you sit back and watch, you can see it also unravelling as you go throughout the 2 weeks, which is interesting. Yeah, I think they're just getting the call right. That's basically what it comes down to at the end, isn't it? It's pretty simple. Just some general stuff, no controversies. Any controversies, you'll be sitting out for a few days. This is the way it is. As Lubo says to you, that was an unfortunate call, or an unfortunate situation. And that's all he says and walks off. And then you get, you sit in the back for a few days, no appointments, and you go, okay, that's what happened. None of that happened to me, so that was all right. I'm sure that, look, it happens to everybody at an international tournament. You're not immune to it, right? Something happens in a game that you can't control. You get sat down for a few days. That's the way it is. So understanding the different cultures. Not every nation plays the same. And not all the referees are the same or think the same. So you just got to learn to adjust. Protecting shooters and ball handlers. Look, they're hot on that stuff. There's no negotiation with those two things. We do protect the shooters well in Australia. We don't protect the ball handlers that well. It's a much more physical game in Australia with ball handlers that can let them bash each other. Over there, nothing. Hand on foul. I don't know how. That's another sort of discussion down the track, but that's just a general difference. The unsportsmanlike and flopping called a lot tighter. There's no worries about calling unsportsmanlike. Someone just grabs somebody, bang. Which I think is a good thing. I think we're much better at the unsportsmanlike foul now here, over maybe the last 2 seasons. Before that, we were a bit shaky. Flopping, it's a work in progress. It's definitely a work in progress. But look, we don't have the same issues that, the teams like Spain, Argentina, of the flopping. All 12 players of Spain, they all flop over all the time, and it's annoying. It annoys the other players, but that's what they do. We just got to deal with it. We don't have that issue here. We don't have it to that degree. Look, and controlling the game at all costs. It just has to be. You just have to control the game. There's just no negotiation with that either. You got to do what you got to do to make sure that it doesn't turn out into World War III. You've got to call more fouls. You've got to call more fouls. At that level, it's all about product and image, and you just got to make sure that your game doesn't turn into something that's a big controversy. Like, that's what you sort of hope. That's the only thing you pray and hope before you do a game is like, please, I just don't want nothing out. And I was lucky, and that's all it was. The games I did all went well. 7 games, I did 4 men and 3 women, all went well. There were no controversies. It was good. But that's not to say next time it'll fall in the heat. You just don't know. Anything you want to ask? Is there anything about any of the game? Right?
What's more like after the tournament, they feel like much feedback after?
No, nothing. No. Yeah, see you next time, bye-bye. Thanks for coming. Yeah, it's like, no, you don't get much at all. You hear stuff like down the track over the years. Like, I'm still hearing stuff from back from 10 years ago, like, oh, remember that tournament, remember that game? You don't really hear much. At World Championship level, you do get reports sent to you. Olympics, I don't think you do. Yeah, you do get, even those reports you do get from World Championships are fairly basic though. It's like ticking boxes and what like the reports we get here. But you sort of have a general feeling on how you've gone by way of what games you got. If you didn't have any major stuff ups. So that's, you just got to rely on your own judgment, I suppose, and what you might hear down the track.
What about in your pre-game and preparing with the different personalities of the referees that you're teaming with? Like your preparation for those sort of games, do you go through a certain your own procedures as well, or can you bring that into your game and the other referees, or do you have to?
I always find the language thing the problem. It's not. It's funny, Australians. I don't know whether you guys know this being overseas, but we talk fast, right? And I talk fast normally, and I mumble a little bit. Now you can magnify that by 100 when I get to a tournament overseas. The very first few days, you're going, oh, slow down. We can't understand you. So the first thing in my mind is to make sure what I'm saying is understood.
Yeah.
Right? That's the first thing that's my major thing. Second thing is I'm not normally the crew chief, particularly on Olympics. I think maybe once or twice over there, which is lucky. But the message was simple. The messages were simple. Calling out an area. Make sure the game doesn't get out of hand. Let's get together if there's a problem. It's seriously that simple. Because you just got to trust that these guys know what they're doing. And they do. Like, they wouldn't be at the Olympic Games if they didn't know what they were doing. But you do have stronger referees and weaker referees. And if you do have some weaker referees, I tend not to say a lot. I will just more of an encouragement type of thing, like during timeouts and things like that. Yeah, keep it up, or yeah, we're doing a good job. I tend not to say too much. Make too much, and also highlighting the countries and the players that we've got as well. But really simple, short messages. That's at that level. Not as much detail as I'm going into here. You just can't do it. You don't want to confuse everybody as well.
Alrighty, we'd like to thank Vaughan for coming and spending some time.